Welcome to Rock Buzz. You gotta love Facebook Marketplace. Every once in a while you hear a story that sounds so surreal, it sounds made up. Like finding a Picasso at a garage sale, or an autographed first pressing of The Wall, tucked behind a couch at a Goodwill. But this time, it's not a myth. A Beatles fan in the UK may have stumbled on one of the rarest rock relics ever uncovered in the most un-rock and roll place imaginable. Facebook Marketplace. James Taylor.
I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end.
And no, not that James Taylor. Is a 45-year-old dad from Brighton who collects vintage guitar amps. One day, while just browsing listings on Facebook Marketplace, he spotted a mid-60s Fender Blackface Deluxe amp going for just under £3,000. A solid find in its own right. What he didn't know at the time was that this amp may have belonged to John Lennon. The John Lennon. According to James Taylor, not that James Taylor, the seller casually mentioned the amp might be gifted by John Lennon himself, a comment that most musicians would likely dismiss. Rock lore is full of "this was Clapton's old Strat," and "Jimmy Page played this at a club in 1968, stories that are nearly impossible to verify. But something about this one was different. After digging into the origins of this amp, Taylor discovered that a musician who actually worked with Lennon on the Imagine sessions, guitarist Rod Linton, was indeed connected to the seller. Taylor reached out to Linton and was shocked to receive what he says is a letter of authenticity, stating the amp was indeed a gift from Lennon. Suddenly, this wasn't just a cool old vintage amp anymore. It was a direct, tangible connection to one of the most important musicians of all time, and possibly to one of the Beatles' most experimental and legendary projects, the White Album.
Where am I?
You're in the records room.
The records room? Oh, I'm fine.
Can I get you something?
Yeah, do you have the Beatles' White Album?
Photos from late 1968 appear to show Lennon using what looks like this exact amp during the Hey Jude and Revolution video shoots. Taylor believes it may have been in use during the chaotic inspired recording sessions which gave birth to the Beatles' White Album. And while that part is yet to be fully verified, experts are already circling. Auction houses have shown interest, with early estimates placing its value anywhere between $20,000 and six figures, a jaw-dropping return on a marketplace whim. While the Beatles are most famously tied to the English Fox amps, especially the AC-30s that powered their early sound, things started to shift by the late 60s. Fender had begun supplying the band with free gear, and they were embracing that classic American tone more and more. The Fender twin reverbs were used throughout the Get Back sessions and prominently for the rooftop concert. Those amps provided the clean headroom needed for live takes. There was even a towering Fender Bassman stack visible in the studio. But this deluxe reverb seems to have been more Lennon's personal amp, smaller, more portable, and perfect for home use or tracking in the studio. That's what makes this find so compelling. It was more part of Lennon's private creative toolkit. For Taylor, who works in the hi-fi industry and is a lifelong Beatles fan, the emotional weight of the find is as heavy as the potential payday. He says one of his earliest musical memories is hearing Sgt. Pepper as a child. Now, decades later, he's jamming on a piece of gear that may have helped to shape rock history. "I did not pay John Lennon money for it," Taylor said. "I bought it because I love the amp. Once I started researching, the pieces started falling into place, and I realized I had something really exciting." Despite the emotional connection, reality is setting in. Taylor is part of the Generation Rent crowd, and owning such a rare, valuable piece of Beatles history in a house with toddlers running around is a recipe for anxiety. He says he'll likely have to sell the amp, even though part of him wishes he can keep it forever. It would be scary to have something so valuable in the house, but the money could finally get me on the property ladder. And that's the most Beatles thing about this story, how something simple and unassuming like an amp sitting in someone's living room can turn out to be a sacred artifact of musical history. The fact that it's not hanging in a museum or locked in a vault, but instead was listed casually online, like a used microwave, makes it all the more surreal. As Taylor puts it, it plays and sounds fantastic. I've even used it in my own band rehearsals. I might have been more cautious had I realized the historical importance. He's now hoping that historians, gear experts, or anyone who might be able to help authenticate the amp's presence on Beatles studio recordings will get in touch with him. johnlennonamp@gmail.com. The dream, of course, is confirming that Lennon used it on the White Album. If true, it would elevate this from an incredible story to a full-blown rock and roll miracle. For Taylor, it's already a dream come true, but if the amp really did help shape the sound of Dear Prudence, Revolution, or While My Guitar Gently Weeps, this Facebook find would be one of the greatest Beatle discoveries in decades. We're going to leave it there for now and go take a look at Facebook Marketplace. Please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. We thank you for watching Rock Buzz.